Hi there, folks. How you doing? It's a pleasure to be here, and really excited that SDN have their global conference here in Dublin this year. I'm going to bring you through the speed dating part of the presentation to start off with, and Heather gave a lot of this information already. So I'm head of shopper experience internally, or customer experience externally, for Musgrave, and a division within Musgrave called Musgrave Retail Partners. So for those of you not resident in Ireland, we're a 140-year-old, sixth generation family business. This was the original storefront that the guys set up 140 years ago in Cork. I'm going to give you a little bit of it. This is a Donald Trump slide, but it's actually true in terms of our company. We are the leading grocery retailer and wholesaler in Ireland. Sorry, I can't do American accents, so it's probably losing the effect. We've about 700 stores throughout Ireland, both Super Value and Centra and Daybreak, as Heather mentioned. And a really interesting couple of Trivial Pursuit facts that I found out 2 years ago when I started in Musgrave, but wasn't aware, that we actually feed 1 in 3 people every single day in Ireland, in conjunction with our partners and our wholesale partners and our growers and our suppliers, which is quite phenomenal. And we're also the second biggest employer in the country. We're actually the biggest private sector employer in the country. We have about 40,000 people working in our warehouses, in our retail stores, and in our head office, which is based in Cork. I'm here to talk about Musgrave, but I'm also here to talk about kind of my experience. So for the last 15 years or so, I've been concentrating or specializing in the area of customer experience, working in telcos and financial services predominantly. And then before that, for about 10 years before that, I'm sounding really old now. Well, I probably am really old compared to a lot of you. For the previous 10 years, I was working in commercial marketing. So really the beginning part of my career was about making money from products and services. And that went from telecommunications to freight, to publishing, to educational services, etc. And yesterday I was doing my presentation at home. My daughter said, "Mum, what's wrong with you? You seem a bit nervy," or maybe I was a bit narky with her. And I said, well, I actually think I'm very nervous doing this presentation. And part of the reason so is because most of the people sitting in the audience are way more expert in the area of design and service design than I am. I'm not traditionally trained in this methodology. But what I did want to talk to you about today was my journey and how I came across this and how I've been using this in larger enterprises and what works and what doesn't work. So I'll bring you through also specifically about Musgrave, how we use it, and a case study later on. Forgot that slide. Oh, this is me wearing my Post-it dress. So about 6 years ago, I fell in love with service design. And the reason being is I think I came to a bit of an impasse in my customer experience career. And whilst a lot of the programs I was doing in different companies were doing very, very well, I felt we were pointing the stick to the wrong end of the problem. So customer experience programs were all about what's wrong and what can we fix, and then concentrate on fixing it. But why were we expending all of this energy when products and services were out in the market to actually fix them, where we should be really pointing towards the beginning of the problem, which was the whole creation of the experience. So I went to a conference and there was a really good speaker there, and he started talking about customer-centered design. And I thought, wow, this could be the answer to some of the customer experience problems. And secondly as well, I think on a personal level, I'd spent the guts of 20 years coming up with value propositions and strategies. And personally, I was a little bit bored of the methodology or how I approach things. So traditionally, I would have gone to a focus group. And I don't know if any of you guys kind of can understand this as well or have lived this. You go to a focus group, you find out what you think the needs are. You go bring it back into the company. You get a lovely flip chart and start ideating on the ideas. And then you pick 1 or 2 you felt was a winner. And you would launch those and they'd work or not work. And that was it. And I just felt I was on this treadmill in terms of designing propositions that was getting very staid for me personally, and thus the Post-it notes came in. So I had a choice between this outfit and that one, so I said I'd probably stick with this one. The Post-it notes would fall off a bit. So as I said, I want to bring you through my journey on my observations in large organizations and why large organizations, or how they are broken today in terms of customer experience, but then also how service design can actually come into play and help. Okay, so 6 areas we're looking at. The first one, that a lot of larger organizations, particularly if they're incumbent, they've been around a very, very long time, they're number one in the market, they can get very complacent, but they forget that the bar on customer experience these days is extremely high and is way higher than they think it is. And part of the reason for that is not only that there's amazing experiences out there, but part of the reason is they only look at their own set. So they only look within, I worked in financial services years ago, and they would have only looked at their main competitors. And how is the customer experience, or how are the other customers experiencing the banks with the main competitors, rather than saying, well, actually, they're experiencing experiences overall with Amazon, Airbnb, Netflix, and that is where the bar is, and that's where we're set at. And customer experience, as we know, is built in and designed into every tiny aspect of our lives these days, from, your handwritten name on your Starbucks cup is not by accident. It is a design feature of Starbucks. And one of my personal favorites, because I always get really confused, I don't know if any of you guys have issues with this, maybe it's a spatial awareness thing or lack of love for cars, but my favorite one is the little triangle that you get on your fuel gauge, where when you pull into the petrol station, you know which side of the petrol pump you actually have to go up to, because I always get confused. Has anyone ever had that problem, or is it just me? Yeah? Okay, good. Great. I'm going to be a little bit, I'm doing a quantitative survey here. It's actually predominantly females, so sorry for being a bit stereotypical on that, but anyway, this helps me. So, the bar on customer experience is incredibly high. And service design really helps companies stretch outside of their comfort zone on what they believe is the right experience to deliver to the consumer. It really helps them break through. The second area, my favorite area, is all about emotion, and not because I'm female, again, stereotyping again, but emotion is key to customer experience. They've done a lot of research in this area, and they reckon about 50% of the reason why a consumer will say your experience is good is down to emotion. It's how you make them feel. And we live in an experience economy, so what's the difference between a normal €1 cup of coffee and the €5 that you spend in Starbucks for a cup of coffee? Outside of the actual physical product itself, it's all of the emotional needs that Starbucks is giving you, that you will pay €5 or 5 times more for a cup of coffee. And this is a kind of a formula for customer experience that I stole a couple of years back from Forrester, called the 3 E's. And it's something that we apply to all of our work in Musgrave, and it's very, very simple, but it's very, very useful. So every experience is made up of these layers, or how consumers judge your experience. So the first one is effectiveness. So what is your consumer or your user's mission? What do they want to get out of the product or service that you're designing for them? The second area, and traditionally, probably for the last 10 years, customer experience is really heavily focused on this, ease. So how can you make the experience really, really easy for the consumer? But finally, and it probably took me a couple of years to cop onto this in my CX career, how do we make them feel? And as I said, 50% of the efforts should be going into the emotion area. Now, if you don't get the effectiveness right, this is like building your basic cake. If you don't get the effectiveness right and it's not easy, there's no point in over-layering emotion. But if you don't have emotion in your experiences, well, then you're going to be in trouble. So service design is fantastic for ensuring that you're meeting all of the 3 areas, but particularly the emotional needs. The third area, and maybe this came back to my nightmare of sitting in countless focus groups, but customers don't have the answer. Customers didn't say they wanted an iPod. They absolutely don't have the answer. And one of my favorite quotes is from Mr. Ogilvy, where he said, people don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. We are irrational human beings. 80% of our decisioning is made non-consciously. So how are you going to ask me what I think about something if I actually don't know why I'm making that decision myself? So again, with service design and non-traditional research methods such as ethnography, it's all about reading between the lines and not asking the customers what they wanted. The fourth area, and I think this is changing, but again, larger enterprises fall down in this area, is that they're not, and we are not as large organizations, as customer-centered as we think we are. Bain, I think it was Bain or McKinsey, did a study over in the States, and they went around to all executives and said, what percentage or how customer focused are you? And 80% of the businesses said, yeah, we're very, very customer focused. They then went and asked their own customers, how customer focused is the company that you're buying from? And only 11% of the customers said, yeah, they focus on me. So there's a big gap there between what we think we're doing and what our customers are actually experiencing. And I saw this a while back in a presentation. It kind of struck me because I kind of thought, yeah, I'm customer focused. You know, I'm really focusing on how to get the customers to buy or use the services. But ultimately, I'm thinking like a business. I focus on the product or the service. I focus on the business itself. I focus on KPIs and costs. But if you look at customer centricity, although it's a different angle and it may sound subtle, it's absolutely huge. And the mindset change here internally, it's huge. So customer centricity is how do we modify our business to be suitable for customers' needs. So we think like a customer, not like a business. Huge, huge step there. You know, focus on the customer, it's a context of use, it's the customer's true need, it's empathy, and it's value for the customer, not just value for the business. And again, service design for me is 100% building from the customer out. And when you do that, you get rid of the notions that you're building the business out. And it really kind of focuses the mind. The fifth area, which is a huge disadvantage large businesses have, which you don't have in smaller ones, is siloed working. Anyone here work in large businesses? Yeah? Probably about half of the area. And you're probably so used to people working on products and services and launching it, and they don't involve other departments. And what happens is the end result for the consumer is extremely unfragmented. Like, how many times have you phoned call centers to get something sorted, and they say, sorry, it's not my department, it's another department does that. Hugely frustrating for consumers. This is a customer journey, for example, in the framework that we would use on a really simplistic level in Musgrave, but it actually makes people think about what is that full end-to-end journey. So service design is all about cross-functional collaboration and the end-to-end journey. And finally, again, for large organizations, failures can be very, very costly. They can be slow to spot, but they can also remain undetected. And with service design, you can fail or succeed very, very fast through prototyping. So the introduction of prototyping, not trialing, is really essential for larger companies. You know, and finally, outside of all of this, there's the old adage of innovate or die, and this is becoming truer more and faster in today's economies. The last 15 years, 52% of Fortune 500 companies have disappeared. If you look at that scale, and the average lifespan in 1958 used to be 70 years, and in 2015, it's down to about 15 years. It's unbelievable. So the whole area of innovating really, really quickly and delivering on amazing customer experience is truer now more than ever. So what I want to bring you through is the Musgrave part of the presentation, and just to explain to you how we use this and our success of the last 2 years of integrating this into our processes. So we do around 5 to 7, depending, large service design projects within the business every single year. And they focus on 3 different areas, or they can come into 3 different buckets. First one is kind of key strategic business issues. So for example, within grocery shopping, a key strategic issue is value. So how do we get people to perceive that we're better value for money than they actually have currently in their heads? That would be one of the elements that we'll actually apply service design to as a project. The second area is proposition development. So when we are developing any new brands, and brand new brands, I'm giving you a pizza example here, we'll actually use service design end to end to come up with a concept and prototype and launch and test with customers. And then finally, if we want to improve products or services that we feel aren't up to scratch or not providing the revenue that we need them to provide, we'll use service design. So here an example is Click and Collect. We do online grocery shopping with our SuperValue brand, and it's all about how can we actually streamline that process to make it much, much, much better for our consumers, but also for our retailers. Let me bring you through one of a case study on one of these, and we're delighted actually to be shortlisted for the awards that will be announced tomorrow with our partners, service design partners, Hellon. So I'll give you a little bit of a taste of this project, and this is one of our earlier projects that we did. So the business challenge here was in the baby category. So this is your nappies and your formula milks and everything that you give babies up to the age of 3. So our categories, the category overall was falling month by month. The birth rate was down year on year by about 3%, so our market was shrinking as it was, and there was massive deflation in baby products, particularly in nappies. When I had my kids 10 years ago, a pack of nappies cost about 13, 14 euros. Now you can buy them for 2 or 3 euros. I had them at the wrong time. Could have saved all that money for their college fees. So huge deflation. So it really was a race to the bottom. And on top of that, obviously, then we were losing market share. So we embarked on a service design project, as I said, with our partners Hellon. You know, the process, you guys know this more than I do, is just your normal service design process, moving from insights to analyzing to the ideation, concept creation, prototyping, and then to launch. So for our insights, don't know what's happening here. So for our insights, here's examples of some of our customers and users that we went out to. So we picked 12 different customer types. We did 1-week diary studies with them. We then went into their homes and did 1-hour-long interviews with them. Probed, this would be their mobile diaries. They were sending us photos and videos of how their shopping experience was and how their day was. We also did a lot of quant observations in store. Some of us actually put on the baby garb and actually worked in store for a couple of weeks to understand what it was like for the back office or the backstage processes, and also our frontline staff in store. And then my favorite part, the Post-it notes, and particularly the blue ones and the bright pink ones. I'm sick of yellow ones now at the moment. So from our affinity mapping, we came up with 26 themes with 7 very, very, very clear opportunity areas. And we did our usual personas. So, you know, there was a lot of different personas we could have gone after, but there was 3 that we felt kind of were our target and the heart of what we were at. And these were the summary of probably the 3 kernels of insights that we based everything around afterwards then when we were building the proposition and the concepts. So for the mother or father shopper with babies, young babies, the main one is they found shopping to be extremely stressful. And again, a show of hands if anyone has been to a supermarket with a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. Yep, have you found it a pleasant experience? No? Don't want to start you crying or anything traumatizing here, but it's really, really, really stressful if you have been in that situation. The second one, there was this innate need on the parent to be the best parent they could be. So whatever they were doing, they wanted to be the best parent for their child. And finally, for their family, you know, value is a huge play here. So they wanted to be reassured that they were getting the best value. You know, everything is on promotion and discounted and very low prices. So it was all about how could I get the best value for my family. So then we went on to the ideation phase. And we had their usual cross-functional teams internally, and we worked through, I think in the end, it was about 148 ideas that we had that mapped out over the consumer journey, and we prioritized those as well. But we also went back to our 3 E's and made sure that we definitely had a lot of volume of ideas in the area of ease and emotion. And from that, then, we prioritized what it was that we felt would be a winner commercially in this market that we wanted to either, some of them we actually launched off-right because they were easy things to do and made sense and we should have been doing them anyway. Others then that we prototyped. So it was about 9 areas or projects or concepts that we brought to market. But I'll give you an example of one of the areas that was probably the most complex to prototype. So this was called our parent VIP shopping. So back to the point that is very, very stressful going shopping with a baby. We worked with a couple of our stores to prototype this idea that between the hours of 9, 10 is on the poster, but between the hours of 9 and 12 o'clock, 3 days a week, you would get a VIP experience. And what that meant, it was the end-to-end journey. If you drove up to the store, there was extra car parking spaces, mother and baby or father and baby car parking spaces. There was somebody that would come out with a trolley trolley rather than you having to try and route around and get coins for trolleys. When you came into the store then, you would be greeted by somebody. They would give your child a balloon, something, again, we timed it. We give them something and we have 20 minutes before they start exploding again. So we had all of this timing in the observation on when the baby would start going off. So balloons were unbelievable. And it was really interesting in the prototyping. We all thought, and this is what I love about prototyping, we all thought, let's give them an activity book, because babies love to put stickers on and all the rest. And the first day of prototyping, it absolutely bombed, because the child kept saying, Mom, can you help me do this? Or where's the sticker? Where do I find this? So the poor parent was actually driven to distraction because they couldn't actually relax and go around and do the shop. So balloons worked a treat. On top of that then, there was extra staff all around the store to help if they went down the baby aisle. There was a baby advisor there to give them advice on any of the products and services. And then once that 20 minutes was up, the next explosion was about to happen, and it typically happens at the checkout. So this is when the child is getting really bored and really wants to be out of the shop, and it is the most embarrassing time because there's a queue behind you and you just want to get out of the shop yourself. So we set up parent-specific checkouts. So if your child was going ballistic, there was other parents behind you and they understood. You weren't kind of holding up millennials that were going, what the hell is this about? And I'm never having kids ever again. So we did that, and then smaller things as well, like the checkout attendant actually gave a little sticker to the baby for, well, it was the kind of toddler at this stage, for good behavior. And any of you young kids, you'll know the miracle of stickers. You bring them to a dentist, they get a sticker and they don't feel pain anymore. So stickers, really, really cheap, worked really well. And then they packed the bags for the parents and brought it out to the car. So because we were doing these on days that were relatively inexpensive for the stores, the cost actually wasn't huge. Here was the end-to-end concept build. There was 10 parts in it. I've talked you through most of those. We created the prototype, and then obviously we did validation and measuring. Sorry, my slides are stuck. Aha. No. Okay, and this was, the store layout. We actually put the 10 points where they would be on the store. Here's a couple of examples of photos of our happy babies doing bits and pieces, somebody meeting them at the counter. Sorry, we gave actually, on the top one, we gave out free fruit for the kids as well. So they got their balloon, but they also got something to put in their mouth, and that's where we got the 20 minutes of peace out of them. And because it was fruit, it was nice and healthy also. So the feedback, one of the consumers put up on Facebook, if Carlsberg did shopping experience, it would be this. And we got a huge amount of really good, positive kudos. This was in the prototype. We hadn't launched at this stage, but a lot of the mothers and fathers in the area were going, this is fantastic, absolutely love this. And a lot of our images, like the free fruit for kids there on the right-hand side, were reposted and shared on Facebook by the people. So this was a team of us that did the prototyping. So back to the validation and the results. So when we invited in consumers to test, and we obviously had there were live consumers there anyway. So when we questioned them, they said they had a 70% reduction in stress levels. NPS was a whopping 92. Never seen that in my lifetime. It was a small sample size, but it was still really positive. Recommendation levels were huge. We got a plus 6% in satisfaction on friendliness. Doesn't sound a lot, but our friendliness scores in SuperValu are very high anyway. We're known for service, so getting an incremental 6% was absolutely massive. And on value for money, which is the hardest score to move in our market, and particularly with our brand, there was a 9% increase in satisfaction on value for money. So really, really successful project for us. But all of that was with a small group of people and asking them, would you come back and spend more and all the rest. So it was all very well and good, but were they actually going to do this? So for launch, before we go nationwide, we then launched with 6 other stores, commercially, fully. We let it run for about 2 or 3 months. Sorry, my build has gone a bit funny. And, in retail grocery, you're so dependent on your day-to-day sales and margins are so low. Anytime I meet with the senior team, they're going, oh yeah, NPS is fine, reduction in stress, that sounds lovely, but show me the money. Where do we actually make money from it? So what we're estimating now, we're in the process of rolling it out, just from this alone, with minimal cost, we're going to get about 4.84 million extra in revenue just from this part of the concept of the 9 concepts that we launched. So really successful for us overall. So within this, as I said, there was 9 things we did. Parent VIP shopping is, we're rolling that out at the moment. We then adopted the free fruit for kids. So in most of our stores, if you go in now, you'll actually see the stands where if you're shopping with your children, you can actually take free fruit for the child, not for yourself. We have had a lot of incidences where people are filling up bags and then putting it down. So this is free fruit, but you'll have that in retail. We also, again, from the research, we weren't as strong in social media that we should have been, so we placed a lot of emphasis in that area. For the value part, we launched, and they're live now, our own brand nappies. We also engaged a baby ambassador, so this is an expert on baby food, and she does a lot of blogs and a lot of different engagements in store. Again, this is back to making you the best parent you can be. In all of our new builds now, we've doubled the amount of car parking spaces for parent and baby, and we also have 4-star hotel grade changing facilities as well for the parents. As I mentioned earlier on, click and collect, this is really important for this segment, so we're in the process of redesigning all of this and indeed have made a lot of changes to date, and we've about 30% growth in this area. And then finally, we also embarked on personalization, personalized marketing. So we know this is a creepy part of data and all the rest. We knew the parents were buying nappies. We know on average how many nappies are used per day per baby, so we could actually predict when they were about to run out of nappies. So we'd send them a text with a link to our online shopping saying, if you're running out of nappies, which we knew they were going to be if they bought from us, click here, here's the promotions for the week, we'll get it delivered to you today. And again, hugely successful. We'd plus 16% increase in sales versus the control group on that campaign. And overall, you know, some of the propositions that I've shown you have come in with very specific results for us. So our social reach has increased by 643%. In the baby category, in certain areas, we're growing by 3.3%, where we were in negative growth. But really importantly for us, it's not just the baby category, it's the revenue overall in the store has gone up by about 5%. But really standing back from this, again, it's great, the money slide is fantastic and you need it for senior management. But for me personally, I think the biggest area within this project really was a culture change and what came off the back of this. We had people who were in charge of buying the products, we call them our traders. They were in charge of buying the products from suppliers, and if they didn't have kids themselves, they had no idea of what it was like to actually bring a child to a supermarket. And they came along with us in the journey. They were observing, they were working in store, they were sitting in our customers' sitting rooms and hearing firsthand what the issues they had with our supermarket, and that was hugely powerful. The end-to-end journey, again, as I said, everyone, because it's such a big organization, everyone's very siloed, so nobody who's buying nappies is thinking, what do I need to do for parking in the store? Or what's it like at the checkout for the parent? So building the end-to-end journey really kind of opened their view on what their role was as well. And then finally, prototyping. Again, we would have historically trialed, and we do a lot of trials because we have so many stores, but the concept of prototyping was really, really new, and I think they were pleasantly surprised by the fact that you could do low fidelity, do it very, very quick, and learn very quickly on how to then go to full commercial trial. So that's it, and that's where we are in Musgrave. As I said, we do about kind of 5, 6, 7 large projects per year. In about 6 weeks' time, we're taking all of our senior management team away to immerse them in service design and teach them about service design and do kind of formalized training with them. Next year, we will be taking 40 people from the business and doing very intensive training with them, and they will be our ambassadors throughout the whole of Musgrave to really embed this culturally as a way of working. And then on top of that, we're continually hiring very talented and very experienced service designers to come in and actually do some of the work with us. And here's a free plug on my own behalf. We're actually hiring designers at the moment, so if anyone is interested in working for a fantastic company in Dublin and Cork, if you go to the Musgrave website or contact me, we're open for business. But really this has been, you know, again, as everyone is saying here, this is part of a journey, and we're 2 years into this journey in Musgrave, but it really is working for us, and it's something that's proving its worth in terms of the bottom line and the effects on the bottom line. Thank you very much.